Welcome back to the Dark Reading News Desk here at RSA 2023. Terry Sweeney here with Dark Reading, and joining me now is Arabella Hallawell, Chief Marketing Officer with Mend. Arabella, welcome back to the News Desk. Nice to see you.
Thank you for having me this afternoon.
The reverberations from Colonial Pipeline continue here at RSA and beyond. Give us an update of where things are with supply chain security and why it just continues to be such a challenge for most organizations.
Yeah, no, it's a great topic. We hear it a lot, including here at RSA. Supply chain security is, in many ways about several different topics. We've seen here in the US, there's been a fair amount of, I'll call it regulatory and executive level attention on the issue. Starting a lot with software bill of materials, which maybe we can discuss later. And I think a really important topic is, in many ways, the threat, the major security threat has really moved to the application layer. And we've seen this ongoing march over the past 3-4 years, but it's really become more and more apparent to a lot of organizations. And I think some of the latest research says that over 80% of breaches actually come through an application layer attack. And some of the complexity is these attacks are now happening in code itself, and that goes beyond the realm of most traditional security operations teams and cyber threat teams that have focused a little bit more at the endpoint and the network layer and haven't got to the process, people, or technology state of really being able to look at the code level.
Well, not to mention the supply chain itself has varying levels of readiness and defenses,
yes.
Not to mention budgets, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be RSA if we also didn't address AppSec. It's closely linked to the supply chain issue that you just described. Update us a bit about what you're seeing with regard to AppSec security trends.
Yeah, so one of the big ones that we see is, I'll just call it supply chain malware. We've seen a huge uptick just in the number of what we call malicious packages, which we see, within organizations, and it's pretty astonishing. And in some ways, it could be comforting and familiar to, some security teams, because a lot of the, I'll just call them like the tactics, are traditional, exfiltration, we see spam, we see protestware. But again, the difference regarding what I talked about before is it's within it's within packages that developers are composing and using, within what they're building. And so it's very, very hard, again, we're talking about supply chain, to understand what is in those packages. Is it safe, is it not? There isn't that much, I'll just call it, reputation information around what's in a package, what's the confidence level. And we're also seeing, just from a threat perspective, while obviously still very, very commonplace, more, I would just call it, threats against dependencies, not the sort of the application, itself. So that's also a little bit more complicated for organizations as well, because they don't normally look at those sort of wider tentacles of dependencies.
Yeah, sure. Let's twin that with another big RSA conversation topic, which of course is artificial intelligence and automation. It's obviously huge here and becoming a common requirement for customers. Can something like dependency management be automated?
Yes, absolutely. So dependency management absolutely can be automated and is automated. So here at Mend, we're actually the owners of one of the largest dependency update communities called Renovate, and it's incredibly powerful. Dependency updating has typically been within the developer realm. They're thinking about, I need to upgrade or update my libraries, but from a security perspective, it's actually one of the most proactive things you can do to improve your application security health. So I think more than 85% of CVEs published actually have a fix available, And, and we see it actually within our customer base. If you really sort of get ahead of dependency updating, you can dramatically reduce your attack surface. And it's a little bit analogous to fitness. Diet and exercise really does work. And so it really does. And so dependency updating is really, really important. And one of the reasons why people don't do it as much is because they don't always have confidence in, will something break if I go to this update? And so we're actually trying to get more of that information out there into the public domain. So here are the gold standard packages, and here are the ones to watch out for. And making dependency updating more of a security topic, it reduces your security debt, I think is really a big way that AppSec teams and developer teams can really improve their overall posture.
All right. Shifting gears slightly
Sure.
To vulnerability management, talk a bit, if you will, about the value of being able to prioritize vulnerability remediation.
Yeah. So very analogous to all kinds of other security threats, we see that the volume and noise when it comes to application security is enormous, and developers are responsible for fixing it and figuring out which are the most important, even of critical ones, is often a massive, very, very onerous task of updating even the critical ones. So there are many efforts at play to better prioritize. We have one, there are others. There are different methods. We use reachability, we use different types of exploitability methods, and then many organizations also look at critical assets. It's very, very important, both from a security perspective, but from a developer perspective, to do this. And you did touch on automation, and being obviously able to do this in a sort of automated way is incredibly important. But yeah, love to talk about automation because it's the reason we renamed the company to Mend. We believe absolutely the hardest problems in application security can only really be solved through automation.
It's somewhat tangentially related, but let's shift gears and talk a bit about the benefits of being able to do prioritization within the repository rather than a separate task outside of developer workflows. What are some of the challenges and benefits there?
Yeah, so just I guess to sort of put all of that within context, many organizations, again, really struggle with being able to even fix the most critical vulnerabilities within a reasonable time frame. So some of our research shows that it takes well over 275 days just to fix a critical vulnerability. And many organizations saw that with Log4j when suddenly they realized that it was very, very hard, not just to get visibility of the actual vulnerability, but all of the related dependencies. And so making sure that you sort of are able to have a lot of those workflows integrated into the basically how the developers do their everyday work is very, very important. But ultimately, this is a little bit part of the shift left conversation. I don't think anyone really says shift left anymore, but doing it in a very integrated way earlier in the process makes organizations much more effective. So we've seen with our customers that actually do, I'll just call it integrated application security remediation within the workflow, they dramatically take those numbers from like 270 days, I think it's to sort of under 40. And we've had customers who were able to do a Log4j in hours and even minutes because there's some best pillars, best practice from a process perspective, organization, technology to do that, but doing it in a really integrated way into the workflows and making sure every single one of your developers is onboarded and using it is critical. So many organizations out there, they sort of have metrics around AppSec effectiveness, and one of the big ones is how much of the code is actually being scanned for AppSec vulnerabilities and then fixed. So doing it at the repo level and integrating it all in gives you a massive sort of head start on that.
Arabella, as always, appreciate the update on
Sure.
where the state of AppSec is today and some hope and some tools ahead for developers as well. Thanks so much for joining us on News Desk today.
Thank you.
We've been talking with Arabella Hallawell from Mend. This has been Terry Sweeney with Dark Reading. Thanks for joining us on the News Desk. We'll see you next time.